This is my hobby, the greatest hobby. Hello everyone, Hobbyist here, and we are back at it again with our Talisman character exploration guide. Now previously we've covered the resourceful tavern maid and her whole versatility when it comes to accumulating wealth. But this next character, oh my goodness, he is so much fun to play with. So the next character that we're going to be covering is a treacherous master of deception and a keen observer who will sell any secret for the right price. This is the spy. Oh boy, this is the character that I've honestly, inside of this expansion, been waiting to get to. But first, let's go ahead and take a look at his stats. He has a strength of 3 and a craft of 3, which is a bit more balanced, much to the same regard as the tavern maid. As you can see here, he's got this little tower logo, meaning that any characters or cards or anything that possess that logo belong to the city expansion, and are ways to make it most certainly easier when it comes to separating it from the rest of everything else. But moving forward, we can see that the spy is an evil character, and well, starts on any space with another character. As you will be able to learn, and as we be able to go through these different expansion characters, all together, there are a total of 13 different starting locations. We have the city, the tavern, the ruins, the forest, the village, the graveyard, the sentinel, the chapel, the cursed glade, the warlock's cave, the oasis, the temple, the castle, and the portal of power are all starting locations inside of Talisman all together. So if you're playing with literally everything, if you're going all out with Talisman, you have all of these characters that can start in all these various spaces, then you literally have access as the spy to any of these other locations. The nomad is pretty much anywhere in the outer region, which is a bit more broad, but being able to start in any of those other starting locations definitely is advantageous if you're wanting to go for any particular corner at the beginning. Like I've mentioned before, if you start near the forest, you'll be near the woodlands expansion. If you're near the ruins, you'll be near the dungeon expansion. The city, obviously, it'll be with the city. And then with the crags, you'll be closest to the highlands. So being able to take advantage of those various locations is definitely something that you want to take into consideration. But moving forward, now, oh buddy, with this first ability alone, you are already well on your way towards succeeding as a spy. Because once during your turn, you may take a secret look at the top card on any deck, just to give you a scope of how powerful that ability is. Let me just show you, with just playing with just the city expansion, how much access you actually have. So with just the city expansion, this is all you have access to. You can literally look at the top card of the city deck, look at the top card of the spell deck, top card of the menagerie deck, because when you're setting up the city expansion, the menagerie deck and potion deck are all shuffled in their respective piles, and you draw from them when you purchase. So you have the ability to look at those two. Whenever Wana posters are being replenished, you have access to the Wana poster deck, being able to see if there's any bounties that you're able to complete or that are upcoming that are going to be easier to complete. You have access to the adventure deck. And like I said, this first ability alone, with just the city expansion, you have access to these 6 piles. Now let me show you something even crazy. Spread all the way out, when you have all expansions, this is literally all of the information that you have with the spy. It is absolutely ridiculous. You can look at what destinies you have, starting from the top all the way to the bottom. You have the destiny deck that you can look at whenever you're trying to find out what destinies you're trying to claim. You can look at the Harbinger cards, you can look at the quest rewards, you can look at the Nether deck, you can look at the bridge deck. Of course, we have the 6 that I showed earlier, the 3 Draconic Lord decks, the Highland deck, the Woodland deck, the Dungeon deck, the Tunnel deck, the Warlock Quest deck if you are playing with Cataclysm, the Talisman deck if you're playing with Cataclysm, the Path cards, the Relics, and the Denizens are all cards that you have access to when you're playing with everything. Information is literally the spy's specialty. Being able to know what it is that's coming within every single one of these decks gives you so much control over this game that it is absolutely ridiculous, because you are able to calculate within your own mind what cards you do want to be pulling and what cards you don't want to be pulling, and what areas of expertise that you want to be setting yourself up for. However, to make things a bit easier, less overwhelming, and a bit more strategic on your part, is the fact that it is only one deck that you can look at a time per turn. So if I'm starting with the Spy and I'm here at the temple that you can see there, if I'm playing with all of this, then once during my turn, at any time during my turn, I can take a top card look just for myself at any one of these decks. So being able to play carefully is definitely something that you can do with the Spy. It is absolutely insane just the level of knowledge that you can possess with this first character ability alone. Yes, the sheer astronomical number of cards that the Spy has, both with just the 6 small decks and just the city and all of that you saw when it comes to the big picture. Spy is absolutely a phenomenal character when it comes to scoping out information. And it just continues even further with this second character ability. At any time during the game, you may look at the spell cards held by other characters. Information and knowledge is the way that these Spy can accumulate wealth. You find and are able to see that certain objects are going to boost your ability to gain gold, or boost your ability to turn in more trophies or wanted posters. You can accumulate wealth on a level that is just honestly unimaginable because of the level of knowledge that you have in the forehand. And the only other in this ability that the Spy has to look at other spell cards of other players, only the Prophetess is the other character in the entirety of Talisman that has the ability to do so. So the fact that the Spy and the Prophetess can look at other spells and be able to gauge when spellcasters may or may not choose to cast these spells is absolutely phenomenal. Because then you can be able to anticipate not only the cards that are out here on the board and anticipate what things you want to show up and win, but you also are able to be able to find, maybe you want to be cycling spells too with the Spy. Maybe you want to start visiting the Magic Emporium and then finding these spells that can counteract these other spellcasters. So your ability to possess all this knowledge is absolutely great. And then this third character ability just really takes advantage of all your reconnaissance over the course of this game, which says, instead of rolling the die for your movement, you may shadow a character in the same region and teleport to his space. If you choose to do so, you cannot encounter that character during this turn. So, the Spy, as a character, when it comes to this particular ability, he operates in the shadows. He is always looking and investigating for certain clues and trying to gain information that other players in Talisman will have no access to whatsoever. Sure, the Sage is similar, if you remember that Reaper video way back when, where he has constant access to the Adventure and Spell deck, but as you just saw, that's kind of cute in comparison to what the Spy can do. And being able to shadow players, because you might get a player who is going off on a hot streak. You might find those characters that can immediately find all the places and all of the enemies and all of these various things way quicker than you can. being able to shadow them instead of move, you can essentially just piggyback off their hard work without really taking anything. So if you find, let's say, a pool of life where there's 4 health and this player just keeps taking some health, then you can just follow up right behind him and start taking health as well. Or you can find places that have a lot of gold, and then you could just follow right behind them. There's a lot of places inside the actual city region that are like this, to where shadowing might be able to find certain areas that allow you to get to the shops quicker, or to be able to get to certain places that may be able to give you more gold, which in turn can help you with claiming more wanted posters. So the spy, I'm honestly almost speechless when it comes to talking about this character, just because of the sheer fact that he has so much going for him in regards to information. Now, much similarly to the sage, the spy can't really control everything that he has access to. So like the prophetess may be able to rotate through all the adventure cards, and then the sage is able to know always what's on the top of the adventure deck and the spell deck. But with the spy, it's more so, I want to say his weaknesses more so encompass what he doesn't see on his turn. Because again, you can only look at one deck per turn. So you have to be very selective of which deck that you're going to take a look at the top card of. Even though you have all these options, you can't look at all of them on one turn. So maybe you might want to look at the adventure deck at the very beginning when you're in the early game. And then maybe if you decide, let's just put in a scenario that we're playing with every expansion, then maybe you might want to look at what's on the Draconic Lord decks. Maybe you want to see if there's any dangers or if there's objects that you might want to be picking up. And then if you go to the Highlands, if your intentions are to go to the Highlands, then maybe you want to start looking at the Highland deck, be able to see what it is that's coming after you and how long you want to stay there before you find enemies that are too powerful. And then you might want to come over to the city, where you might have options to where maybe you want to start buying potions. Maybe you can look at the deck and see what potions that you want to grab, or what pets that you might want to buy. Or if there's any bounties that you've already claimed, or bounties that are being rotated through, you can be able to look at the bounty deck and be able to see, okay, I've collected these trophies, this is what's coming up, so these are the trophies that I should start looking for. Or in the city deck, where you might find those specific enemy types that are able to enable you in that regard, whether it be for boosting stats or for claiming bounties. So it's more so of what you missed out on that is a quote-unquote weakness for the spy. And the fact that the spy is a balanced character means that he could potentially be weak in strength or weak in psychic combat when it comes to fighting monsters or fighting spirits. But other than that, I still think the spy is a very solid character. So yeah, this encompasses the spy. He's the only other character aside from the nomad that doesn't really start on a particular space. And this is the point where I'm gonna sign off. See you guys.